Hello and welcome to this week's video. A while back I had a request to do a video on the sculpting tools I use. So I was thinking, I use a lot of sculpting tools and I thought this is just going to be too long, too much information, so I thought I would focus on my 3 favorite sculpting tools. These tools I use in 90% of my sculptures, so here are my 3 favorite sculpting tools. My first favorite sculpting tool is the Exacto knife. The Exacto knife is very useful when I want to cut off a certain amount of clay. It also works nice to cut pieces out of a sculpture, like this leaf here. I wanted to make it look like it was torn. Another good use for it is when you want to have 2 equal halves of something, like this circle of red clay that I'm going to make into these ladybug wings. And that similar, technique is the same if I want to do these monster arms and have them about the same length. I cut them here at an angle so they can go on evenly. It also works very nice for doing animal ears or monster ears, like for a cat or something that's going to have ears kind of perked up, and you want to have them, relatively the same size. Another good use for it is when rolling out small pieces to use for the pupil in an eye, and you want them around the same size, so you can kind of trim those out, and then after you cut them, roll them in 2 balls, and then it'll work really nice for the pupils for this monster. This same technique is used for like the spots on the ladybug wings. Another good use for it is when I want to make wood planks for something, like I did for the drawbridge. I go ahead and cut out my basic shape using the Exacto knife, and then I will cut it into individual boards. After I have the boards cut out, I go ahead and alternate them, kind of move them around, and that way it breaks up the pattern and doesn't look like they are made from the same piece. So they're, the grains of the wood don't line up, and gives it a more realistic look for, some kind of door. Another good use for the Exacto knife is when doing this old wood. I wanted to add little notches to the edge of it so it didn't look all, even and perfect. And this will make it look like it's splitting a little bit more than just the grooves on the outside. My second favorite tool is the needle tool. The needle tool works great when picking up these smaller, lighter pieces of clay, like this mouth I sculpted out for this ghost. It would be really hard for me to pick that up with my fingers, but with the needle tool I can kind of get it in place and even adjust the sculpt of it a little bit, once I get it placed on the ghost, and then press it into place so it, won't come off. Another good use of the needle tool is I make mouths for my one-eyed blobs. You can use this for, monsters, creatures, whatever. It's a great way to make just a little indentation into your sculpture. And now for these leaves, I wanted to add some texture to the sides of the leaf on the edge there. So I'm using the needle tool to kind of press in there to add that texture to it, so they weren't just kind of a smooth surface. And a variation of that technique I use on this carrot monster, where I just press the needle tool against it and then turn it or the needle tool around to add those indentions like you would see in a carrot, and I think it turned out really well. On that door I showed earlier in the exacto knife section of this video, I used the needle tool to add those grooves onto the wood to add some texture to them and make them look more natural. And my third favorite tool is the ball tool. The ball tool works great for making little eye sockets for my sculptures. Now these sockets can be used for clay eyeballs like the blob and this monster here. This technique also works for some of the other sculptures I do, like this carrot monster that had beads for his eyeballs. And just make sure that the indentions are just a little bit larger than those beads, or you can do them about the same size, but you'll just have to kind of force them in a little bit more. And the trick with these beads is they have a hole on each end because they were used for like necklaces or bracelets. So you want to make sure when you push them in, you cover up that hole. Similar to doing the eye sockets, you can also do the indentions with the ball tool when you want to add some kind of appendage to your sculpture, like this tail for this little monster. I wanted the tail to go in farther and then kind of bring the clay around it to kind of even it out. So it was looking, you know, like it was coming out of the monster instead of just being on the edge there. And this works out really well for this. I also do the same technique with this ladybug head, but I don't go as deep. I just want to kind of make a partial circle in there so I can put that head in there and you know, make it indented into the body a little bit. Another good use of the ball tool is when you're adding pieces of clay onto a sculpture, you can use it to smooth that clay into that sculpture. Not only does this make it look a little bit better, it also makes it a little sturdier because it's going to blend those pieces together. That works for around the eyes of this carrot monster, but it also works really well when adding limbs to, you know, a monster or creature that you're making. I'm also going to use that blend technique here when adding the bottom part of the mouth of this monster. So I go ahead and shape it out how I want, get it positioned in there, and then I'll just even it out with that ball tool, and that'll really hold it in place, plus it'll give a better look than if I just stuck it on there. And those arms I cut earlier in the video with the exacto knife, I use the same technique to attach these to this little monster, where I press them into place and then use the ball tool to kind of you know, blend those edges together, kind of merge that clay. That'll make it, you know, pretty sturdy. Another thing you could do is add a little bit of the liquid clay. It's kind of a glue onto the surface where the two pieces meet. Well, that pretty much covers my 3 favorite sculpting tools. I'll go ahead and end this video showing some of the sculpting work I did on the ladybug on a leaf that I made for last week's video. This kind of shows all 3 tools at use. If you have any questions about these tools or any other sculpting tools, please leave them down below. If you have any ideas for future videos, also leave those in the comments down below. If you like this video, please give it a like. Also, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and never stop creating. Bye.